Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're cracking open something really fundamental, aren't we? Emotion.
Absolutely. It's something we all live with constantly, but, understanding it is another story.
Right. You've shared this great set of sources. Brain scans, evolutionary theory, the works. Our mission today is to really unpack that.
Find those key insights, yeah. It's a rich topic.
Definitely. So let's get into it. What are emotions, really? Where do they come from? The brain, the body? Why do we even have them?
And how they influence us day to day. The sources really emphasize it's more than just, a feeling.
Okay, yeah, the sources make that clear. It's not just feeling happy or sad in your head. It's presented as a much bigger reaction.
Exactly, a complex reaction. The material breaks it down into three main parts that happen almost at once.
Okay, three parts. First, there's the thinking bit, your thoughts about what's happening.
Yeah, the cognitive part, your immediate interpretation.
Then the physical stuff, heart racing, sweating, maybe even smiling.
That's the physiological response, your body kicking into gear.
And third, what you actually do or feel like doing, like laughing or wanting to run.
The behavioral part, the impulse to act, it all happens together.
So the example they used, feeling scared, a loud bang happens.
Right, your thought might be danger.
Oh.
Then boom, heart pounds, maybe you gasp.
And you might flinch or jump back, that whole package deal. That's the emotion.
That's the emotion of fear in that moment, yeah. The thought, the body's surge, the urge to react, it's a whole system response.
Controlled by the brain, primarily.
Orchestrated by the brain, definitely. Which leads us nicely into the science part.
Yeah, the sources got pretty detailed here. Talked about the limbic system.
Think of it as the brain's core emotional hub.
And specific parts within that system do different jobs.
That's right. The amygdala, for instance.
Yeah.
It's small, kind of almond shaped.
And that's the quick response unit, scanning for danger.
Exactly. It's like your internal alarm bell. It flags threats, but also links emotions to memories, which is important.
Okay, so the amygdala spots potential trouble, but then there's the prefrontal cortex, behind the forehead.
Right. That's more involved in the conscious processing, thinking things through, understanding consequences, maybe calming down that initial alarm.
So it's like the amygdala shouts, panic, and the prefrontal cortex goes, okay, hang on, let's assess this.
Sort of, yeah. It helps regulate the response. The source has highlighted that interplay is key for managing emotions effectively.
Makes sense. And the hippocampus, where does that fit in?
Crucial for memory, especially forming and retrieving them. It's linked to the emotional centers, explains why, really happy or scary events stick with us so strongly.
So it's not just a feeling floating around, it's biology, brain structures, and chemicals too, right?
Oh, absolutely. Neurotransmitters and hormones. They're like the chemical messengers carrying emotional signals. The sources list several key ones.
Okay, like dopamine, that's the pleasure one.
Often called that, yeah. Involved in reward, motivation, feeling good.
Serotonin, that affects mood balance.
Mood, sleep, appetite. The material mentioned low levels are often linked with feeling down or depressed.
Then oxytocin, the love hormone, for bonding and trust.
That's the one. Important for social connection.
Then adrenaline, for fight or flight.
Yeah, or epinephrine, gets your heart racing, makes you alert when facing a threat, loads you with energy.
And cortisol, the stress one.
Right. Good in short bursts for mobilizing energy, but the sources warn that too much for too long. That leads to chronic stress, burnout, negative health effects.
And these chemicals mix and match. The sources mention love involves dopamine and oxytocin.
Exactly, it's a cocktail.
Yep.
And stress might be a mix of adrenaline and cortisol flooding your system.
Fascinating how these chemicals create the feeling, but why? Why did we evolve this complex, sometimes difficult system?
Well, the sources argue very strongly that emotions aren't random. They evolved because they were useful, critical, even for survival and social living.
Like the classic caveman example, fear makes you run from the lion.
Precisely. That fear reaction wasn't just unpleasant, it was a life-saving signal. Get out of here now. Survival advantage right there.
Or the love for a child example, that deep bond ensures care and protection.
Absolutely. So emotions act as these powerful internal messages, prompting actions that historically helped us survive and reproduce.
So they're basically action signals from the brain.
You could put it that way. Signals about your internal state or the environment guiding your behavior. But it's not just about individual survival.
Right, the social aspect, communication, empathy.
Yeah. Seeing sadness in someone else can trigger empathy in you. That feeling might prompt you to help, which strengthens social bonds. That kind of emotional signaling is crucial for how societies work.
We're wired to connect emotionally, which, okay, brings up another point from the sources. How many different emotions are there? Is it just a few basic ones?
Well, we often talk about the big six, right? Paul Ekman's list. Happiness, sadness, anger, fear, surprise, disgust. The sources mention these seem pretty universal.
The classics. But the material also pointed to newer research suggesting more.
A lot more, potentially.
Yeah.
Some studies propose maybe over 27 distinct categories of emotion.
27. Wow. So beyond the big six, we're talking about things like
Embarrassment, hope, pride, envy, awe. Nostalgia was an interesting one they highlighted.
nostalgia, right. Not just remembering, but feeling the past. That warm, maybe slightly sad feeling.
Exactly. And the sources suggest it's not just fluff. It can actually boost feelings of connection, give life a sense of meaning or continuity.
So our emotional world is much richer, much more nuanced than just happy, sad, angry.
Definitely. And speaking of nuance, the sources did a good job clarifying the difference between emotion, feeling, and mood. People often use them interchangeably.
Yeah, I found that distinction really helpful. Can you recap that?
Sure. So emotion is the first, fast, often unconscious reaction. The physiological changes, the quick thought, the action impulse, like that initial jolt of fear.
Okay, the raw response.
Then the feeling is your conscious awareness of that emotion. It's when you process it and label it. I feel scared. It's your subjective experience.
Right, the interpretation.
And mood is longer lasting. It's a more general emotional background state, not necessarily tied to one specific event, like feeling generally cheerful or kind of down all day.
So emotion, fast reaction, feeling, conscious experience, mood, longer state. Got it.
It helps map the territory a bit better.
Which leads to the million-dollar question, I guess. Can we actually control this stuff, the emotions?
Ah, yes. The sources gave a kind of yes and no answer, which felt realistic.
Okay, how so?
Well, the no part is you usually can't just stop that initial emotional reaction from firing off. It's often too fast, too automatic. Your brain's wiring.
Okay, so you can't just decide not to feel scared when the lion jumps out?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But, and this is the crucial yes part, you can learn to understand and manage your response to that initial wave.
That's where emotional intelligence comes in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The material defines it as basically knowing what you're feeling, understanding why you might be feeling it, and then choosing a healthier way to respond instead of just being, carried away by it.
And they offer practical tips for doing that, for managing the response.
Yeah, several useful strategies. Things like taking slow, deep breaths that directly calms the physical fight or flight response.
Okay, breathing. What else?
Journaling, writing things down helps process the thoughts and feelings. Talking it through with someone you trust gives perspective.
Exercise was mentioned too, right? Working off that physical energy.
Definitely. And things like meditation or mindfulness practices help you observe emotions without immediately reacting. Even practicing gratitude can shift your overall mood and focus.
So it's not about shutting emotions down.
No, not at all. The sources really hammered this home. Emotions are information. They're signals telling you something important. Ignoring them isn't the goal.
It's about understanding the message and deciding what to do with it. Not weakness, but data.
Precisely. It's a guidance system.
That's a powerful way to think about it. And speaking of data, there were some really fun, surprising facts in the sources too.
Oh yeah, like the one about crying, that it can actually release stress hormones.
Right. So that feeling of relief after a good cry might actually be, in part, chemical. You're literally washing stress away.
Kind of amazing. And how early emotions start babies feeling them, even before they talk. Responding to mom's emotions in the womb.
Incredible. Shows how deep-seated this all is.
And the heart thing. We feel it in our chest, heart pounding, fluttering, but the actual experience of the emotion, the feeling itself, is constructed in the brain.
So the heart reacts, but the brain interprets and makes it a feeling.
It's the brain integrating all the signals.
Yeah.
And that last one, about smiling.
Oh yeah, the fake it till you make it idea. That even forcing a smile can trick your brain into feeling a bit better.
Seems there's some truth to it. That physical action feeds back to the brain. It shows that connection, body, brain, feeling, it's all linked.
It really paints a picture of emotions as this incredibly complex, powerful, core part of being human.
Absolutely. They're not just add-ons. They're fundamental to how we survive, connect, understand ourselves and the world. Biology and psychology woven together.
Yeah, this deep dive really drove that home. Understanding our own emotions and recognizing them in others. It's just so key to, well, everything. Communication, relationships, self-awareness.
It really is. This has been a fascinating exploration of the material you gathered.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks so much for walking through it with us.
My pleasure. It's a topic worth diving into.
Definitely. And for everyone listening, here's a final thought to chew on based on what we've discussed. If emotions really are messages from your body and brain, what signals are your emotions sending you today? What information are they trying to give you? Something to think about.